This stuff here, Yerushalmi Eruvin. The article Ozvar Dershim Dafnu Ches Amrav, the second line, Taman Amre, which in the Vilna is on Dafnun Dal Amr Aleph. The third line from the bottom says Taman Omar. The point is the same way as the Amri Omar. Herzl said, I feel like Imechitzis Gavas Asar. So we're going to go with the shot from Chaim Kanievsky, which is the Carbon Ada's shot, the essay. They're talking about where you have need Dalit al Dalit Amos in order that you should be able to collapse it and make it shoot. Good word into the essay. CHUTE of by like the bottom here, like the shoot of with 10 tefachim by 4 by 4 in theory, right? So it's 4 by 4 amos in order to make this kind of shoot. So that is even though its practice remains flat, but since it's 4 by 4 amos and 4 by 4 in the middle, so therefore you could take 10 tefachim on each side and make it into that shoot like that. So the so in Bava they said, I feel like mechitzas go as a start, even if the walls are not 10 tefachim high, meaning even if that it's not 4 by 4 amos, like that, Nasis Kamishmeres Chad. They can make it like a sharp, what's the word? Funnel. So and like this. So since it made a sharp funnel, the Yerushalmi is not going to the cheshbon. Obviously, somehow or another, you don't have to have the same amount because it can be 4 by 4 on the top and much less on the bottom. So therefore, it's you're going to need less structure all around it if the bottom of the funnel is going to be a tiny, and it's all in theory anyway, of course, because it's a flat surface. You're not actually bending it to make a shoot. They can make a narrower shoot. You need less of that surface area to look at it as if you bent it over and made the actual shoot. Okay, so again, but the cheshbon is Reb Chaim didn't figure out. We're not going to figure out either. Okay, so this hole you have in your porch, which is that hypothetical shoot. You can pull water out of the body of water through that hole. But you can't spill water out of it because the water you spill out is going to go beyond the walls of your balcony, and it's going to go downriver. So you're going into a carmelist, so you can't do that or elsewhere in the lake. Amalei, so he said, "Kad nimna." So the says Korbaneda, the when we appoint chachamim on the tzibur, nimna v'lashem minui, amne gamascha. I will count you among them. Because you said a smart thing. So and manhar havoyame. So the Korea says there's chok amar b'chia kein Rabbi Adi. He says a joke. Shadar pashush keinu. It's obvious that way. The shkeinu also lishbachim with us. You're not allowed to spill. You're allowed to fill up. Lishna achrina. The Lishna Achrina here, which is the Moshe Sachekimo, exact opposite. Mislemo is joshing with him. She'ein chiluk ben lishpoch ben lamalos. There is no difference between pulling up the bucket or spilling it down. And the Pnei Moshe says, when you can't the Chachamim to give them smicha. Interesting. Oh, pliba. They are like this. I wanna come me nahar or me. I mean, do I wanna come manhar or me gachech have I made their schok? Amal okay. Fishloi table zebe in a Rabbi Chia. There's going to the same shot of Korbaneda. He doesn't like this. He doesn't like this. His interpretation. The Ma'aseh Mitir L'Malo said they have mechitza lo natir nami lishpoch. So we should also allow it to spill. So he's going like the second shot in the Korban Heda. Amar Rabbi Yosef said milay. So what does this mean? So it could mean milay to fill up. In other words, you're allowed to fill up, but not allowed to spill down. The way Pnei Moshe learns it, mila amarle. He says milsa b'taima amarle. Vuta b'nei chia. It's l'shevach amarle. Shenimna chachamim nimna l'chayim mahem. He says, no, you're right. B'shiyafa amarta. So there's a mila that Chia said, it wasn't joshing or joking. He was saying something mila chashva milsa, something to praise. He's saying Pishiyofa Marta Mutamalos in the Mali Derech Mechitzasa. It's okay to fill up through that mechitza. I've also spoken not to spill. Because it spills outside the mechitza. But he adds on here, the name Moshe says, no, when you spill, you don't necessarily spill through the hole. You should spill outside the hole. So I'm not sure what the Bnei Moshe means. Sounds like Bnei Moshe, let's see the next line of the Gemara, obviously, but sounds like it means that you're not just going to spill out through that hole in the middle of your balcony, you're going to spill from around the balcony as well. But I'm not sure that's what Bnei Moshe means. But if he does mean it's Lav Dafka, obviously, because it sounds like the whole issue is he didn't spill through the hole, it's going to go further away. But it sounds like Moshe, the issue is a separate issue here. Not just that he's going to spill through the hole, it's going to go down river, but rather they're going to spill over the side of your balcony. So in any event, so let's learn Mila. It says Al-Fresh in Vilna, but Shus Chol changed it to Amarle. So it's Mila Amarle, according to the way the Pnei Moshe is learning it. And this is also where the article has a gersa, Mila Amarle. Muta Malos, you're allowed to fill up. Shemai Mechitzaso. You're filling from within the mechitza. Spilling outside mechitza. So again, it could mean that you're spilling outside mechitza, meaning it's going to go through a hole, then it's going to go further downriver. Or it could mean that you're going to spill over the side by and not be meticulous to spill through the hole. It says what Mechir Barba, Lo Amar Bechanin about Kav. So Chanin Kav gave this whole eitzah about you have a 4x4 amma balcony. It's as if you see it as if it's a chute, even though it's not an actual chute. So so he only said this B'Yam Shel Tveria, only by the Kinneret. Shaharei Makivin also because it's surrounded by mountains. So it's anyway like a Rishus HaYachid. Okay, so it's Kebena Mechitzos, like Bnei Moshe puts it. But other bodies of water, he'll be more than need a Mechitza Mamish. Okay. So Lezer asked Rabbi Yechon, Hain. Here it's a bill that says Pustus. Yerushalmi brings down that the Latin is prostus. So it's a path which is crooked and goes an angle when you come into the city. If you go through Shari Yafo in the old city of Yerushalayim, you go make a sharp angle, right? So that's like a prostus. Reb Chaim says it's on a sharp angle because it's of mountains. In any event, I guess because it has to go through mountains and therefore it has to go angle around. Interestingly, Pnei Moshe brings down that from Brachas, the Meister Gamliel Shonachis Achas Noah, and says that Rabbi Gamliel was Chidak, Rabbi Gamliel was Takmanashim, Derech HaKumui, Saisakon Hahum, whatever the gear says there, Mifstudus, and the Pergam was Goris Phosphorus, but anyway, there in Gamliel, where he made the bracha and seeing a beautiful non-Jewish woman, says that he wouldn't have looked, but he came to an angle, and that's called a prostus. So that's the idea. So in amen, but it seems that this prostus here, like Reb Chaim says, not a structure, but it's a curvy highway of some sort in the mountains. So it's surrounded by mountains. So what happens? Then we're asked, Rabbi Lezer Shal Rabbi Yochanan Hain prostus or whatever it is. Is it considered to be throwing to Shus HaYachid? Because it's surrounded by this. It's a road but it's surrounded by mountains. So I'm not sure if the angle is being taken into effect or not. But the point is it's surrounded by mountains. That's what makes it just have to go in a distorted way. So Amrei said, your question can be taken much further. According to you, there should be no Shusharam everywhere. Now, for some reason, the Pnei Moshe learns it's going on Yerushalmi, which is Harim Savivla. But then he says, yeah, but maybe all of Eretz also, the Makla Sumo the Tzur. The point is, but saying the whole world, not literally, but saying there are lots of places surrounded by mountains. So if you're assuming that like the Kinneret is surrounded by mountains, one giant Rishus HaYachid, so therefore every place surrounded by mountains shows me one giant Rishus HaYachid, and that's what asked me from the Prustus, right? So when it says, basically, according to Reish Lakish, the foolish and silly road which is directly straight, from one end of the world to the other. Okay, which perhaps Sofolam is not literal, but perhaps the horizon, perhaps something. But in any event, there has to be even foolish for a very, very great distance. Mara says no, it's even more than that. She does. Reish Lakish. It seems Reish Lakish contradicts because here it sounds like, well, if it's from foolish to be sofa, whatever that means, at least you should survive me. But elsewhere he said, the Amar said, there's no Shusharam in this world. Only Lasi Levo. The Shneim, why? Because Shneim says, Kogei Nasei. Then it says all valleys will be lifted up. So then there'll be a smooth road, flat road anywhere on earth. But now, any road will go up and down or hit mountains and twist around, and there's not going to be necessarily any Rishus Harabim in our day and age. So again, I don't think necessarily Reish Lakish literally means no Rishus Harabim in Bisman Hazeh, but because we know we learn Rishus from the Midbar. Right? In the Midbar, there was Rishus Harabim. That's how we don't know Malacha of Otzah. But rather means in the Galil, in Eretz Yisrael, where there's so many mountains and all the roads are twisting and turning, and some of them are very steep, as we'll see in a moment. So therefore, he said, in our area, there's no Rishus Harabim. When all those mountains will be say if we take it literally, so then there'll be Rishus Harabim in our environments. But nowadays, in our environments, there's no Rishus Harabim because it's not foolish, because everything twists around or goes up and down. But the Gemara says, Masisa Pliga are Reish Lakish. The bright star is Reish Lakish that says, Ezu Rishus actually, Mishnah, Ezu Rishus HaYachid, which is Yachid Shvili Beis Gal. We're very, very steep roads, paths, which are very hard to walk on. There are Rishus HaYachid Shabbos, because it's hard to walk on them, and Shabbos Shusharim and Tumah, but Shusharim for Tumah, because for Tumah you only need 3 people, or it's Shusharabim. So there are 3 people can walk on them at once, but masses of people can't walk on them at once. So you're not going. She needs 600,000. But in any event, so the idea is that the Shulei Beis Galgal, since they're very steep, they're very steep, and very hard to walk on. There, Rishus HaYachid. But it sounds like other roads, even in the Galil, even in very hilly areas, there are possibilities of having an actual Rishus Harabim. So therefore, it's not like Reish Lakish. Okay, new thing. Allah Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Allah Amar Rabbi Yosi. Now, it's not brought down here. Carbonator brings it down. Allah Amar Rabbi Yosi, Mesech Sukkah, Meshal Shadfons Milamalo Lamata. Somebody hangs walls down from on high to below. Shem Shemata Lamalo. So just like from, you can say good aches if you have a wall which is 10 feet high, it's as if it goes down up to the sky. So you could say good aches. If you have a wall of 10 feet anywhere, it's as if it goes down to the ground. He said kach milamala mata asora. Right. So it says Rabbi Yochanan lo Rabbi Yossi only in Sukkah. And even Shabbos, in terms of Shabbos, which is more severe, after Rabbi Yossi moeded, the walls have to start within 3 tvach of the ground. They have to be level to the ground. Mr. Rabbi Chia ma'afli in Shabbos. But what Rabbi Chia says is that in terms of Shabbos, also Rabbi Yossi says the mechitza tluya is permissible. And it's interesting because this story is brought down in the Bavli too. But in the Bavli, It says it was not Rabbi Yossi. It was Rabbi Yossi according in his own opinion. But Yerushalmi has it according to even according to Father Rabbi Yossi, and there's a picture on the page of Shchai. In the Bavli, the story is that they needed to bring the Sefer Torah on Shabbos, and we didn't have walls, so they found that there were sheets hanging, and the sheets were dangling off the ground, more than 3 talking off the ground, and Rabbi Yossi was master to use that to bring the Sefer Torah from the house to the shul. So here it's a slightly different story, but same principle though. So the Rabbi China Amar Avinu Shabbos, the Rabbi China Shilton Baal to Tzipori. There was the Shilton, the government came to Tzipori, and evidently they had to carry something for the authorities on Shabbos, Tolokitios, and in order to do that, for Shabbos, I assume they hung sheets up. And Rabbi Yossi allowed them to carry underneath these sheets, in other words, within these sheets, Shitas Aviv. According to his father's Shita. So we see that the Yerushalmi holds that Rabbi Yossi himself was martyr, and not just Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yossi was martyr these, the on account of good aches, even on Shabbos. Okay, so it says Gemara that Rabbi Yossi B'Rebun, B'Shem Rishon Yitzchak said, As Rabbi Yossi B'Chanina, Yitzchak says is like Rabbi Chananya, V'Tarvim Plekah Shizah Rabbi Yochanan, and they both argue on Shita Rabbi Yochanan, both Rabbi Yisrael and Rabbi Chananya, and Rabbi Yochanan, good aches doesn't work by Shabbos, and they hold good aches does work on Shabbos. The Mar should be Moshe says Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. Yossi said Rabbi Yudan, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, Shloshen Amru Davar Echad. They all said the same thing, and the basic principle is that Mechitza Tluya is permissible. Now Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, we had already. He's the one who spoke about the shoot, the hypothetical shoot, which works. And for Shabbos, and then we had the Rabbi Yossi, as again according to Yerushalmi that Mechitza Tluya Materis on Shabbos. Again, not like the Bavli says Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yossi, but Yerushalmi that the Yisur Aches, and Rabbi Yudan. I just work backwards, right? Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yudan. The question: which Rabbi Yudan? So the also davar echad be'ibid the gshar mefulashim. Who does the gshar mefulashim? Now gshar mefulashim. Here the Gilyon Shas changes the gears to the Gemara. He says what it was gshar mefulashim have to do with good aches, and you know that under a roof is under the bridge is the shus hayachid. That's a pitikra halacha. So therefore he changed. It says no, it's not Rabbi Yehuda the Gshar Mefulashim. It's Rabbi Yehuda who held that the Mechitza Tluya is matir by mine. Right? He was one held that we had that picture over here. Even though the Mechitza is above the bore, it's matir inside the bore. That's what the Shas learns. The way Reb Chaim learns and the way I saw the article also learns is Rabbi Yehuda's our P-Tikra. We hold P-Tikra only works if you have 2 adjacent walls. And Rabbi Yehuda holds P-Tikra works even if you have 2 parallel walls, because it's a bridge, right? The bridge is going between 2 parallel walls, opposed to over 2 adjacent walls. So that the if you hold P-Tikra works in that way, it works because of Mechitza Tluya. It's the same principle Mechitza Tluya. It's not a normal P-Tikra. It only works if you hold a Mechitza Tluya. Now, as you have many times, they have a Shita. It's not necessarily true that any of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia all agree on all these halachas, but they each are matir and Mechitza Tluya in different ways. Okay, so and now the Gemara specifies that Rabbi Yossi again Rabbi Yehuda Gshar Mefulashim and the Shas changes Rabbi Yossi to Rabbi Yehuda of the Mechitza Pnei Mayim, and Rabbi Yossi the Sukkah where he said Mechitza Tluya Materis, and also according to our Gemara worked on Shabbos as well. And Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, we learned the Tanya Rabbi Chananya he was matir Ketzaitzah Eitz B'Shabiyam he was matir the shoot, right, and the eitz shabiyam in terms of using it's kind of seaweed type thing in order to do atamana on Shabbos. I think it's said to be a dover mosiv hevel. Avos is allowed you to carry towels is not concerned they might come to schita. Can I get back to the case of Gezutra in our Mishnah? Remember, he said that the Bavli holds that the Gezutras are next to each other. Okay, and that's the issue. But the Yerushalmi here, going like Reb Chaim, is saying no. The whole issue of having Erev is where the Gezutras are above one another. And using like this. If they're next to each other, we would not need an Erev. It would no be issue in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said that so the so it says Rabbi Yossi said they're using the same hole. The top one's going to the bottom hole. So if they're like the Bavli's case, where one is next to each other and they're not using the same hole, then there's no issue, even though they're close proximity, mutter. It's permissible. For Tani came, we also learned this way in the Brisa. You have three ketzotos, one on top of the other. You can't go from the top one to the bottom one through the middle one, evidently without an Eruv. Reb Chaim points out interesting. He says even though that says what's the chiddush? It's never pasha, right? So he's saying no. It's about the Tachtona might have made an Eruv together, but the middle one didn't. But you never stop in the middle. Just go straight through the middle. So he says, even though it goes straight through, you don't stop there. It doesn't matter. In fact, you're passing the middle hole. You can't. You need an Eruv, otherwise it doesn't work. That is, you can use the from a lower yard to a roof, not through them twice. It's not a problem. Even though, and the chiddush is, even though there's airspace, right, of the middle one in the middle, because you have evidently it's going right in, I'm not sure exactly the scenario, but it's going right in his in a way there's some sort of overlap in which there's some sort of airspace in one in the middle, but it's not going through a hole in Izmir Pesas. So therefore, that's okay. You can go from the Gag, the top one, to the Chutz, the bottom one. The Gag and Chutz is the same thing as if it's three Tzutros, even though they're going through airspace in the middle, which might belong, I guess maybe Cheshem Mishpat belongs to the middle one. Doesn't matter. That's not an issue. Okay, but when you're going through with the middle one, there's also machlekas, here there's kind of change the gears a bit. He says, Amar Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yitzchak Hadar Amar B'Yifnim Amichutz Aser. Says that which you have the problem with the three tzutzos is when you're going through the hole in the middle. But if you're doing outside, even though there's the middle tzutzor, if you're going around, see he says that even if you're going in front of a window, which the middle, I guess that's a scenario maybe from before as well, in front of a window, which the middle guy has, the kind of middle of 3/4, you go in front of his window or in front of his balcony, as long as it's on the outside, it's mutter, because he says here, even though the middle guy also uses window to fill out front and below, doesn't matter because you're not. It's Rishus Avir. There's no direct connection, even though he's using the same Avir. The fact that you might use the same Avir, that's not an issue. And so he passed in front of his window, in front of his balcony. But most of them, that's Reb Chaim's own change. Nobody else changes the gears here. Actually, I shouldn't say many people change the gears here, but evidently there's a gear. Rabbeinu Chanana brings this down. The Shankib Shudas Rabbeinu Chanana brings it down. It doesn't change it. So if you don't change it, you would have to say that perhaps the pshat is like this. It's something very different. That's they can on the inside. In other words, Torah should say yachid, but not mibachutz, not out over shusah rabim, because maybe you're going from the top to the bottom, and there's shusah rabim below. We're afraid that's going to fall into shusah rabim. So that'd be a very, very, very different discussion. But in any event, so that the Gemara says, going according to Reb Chaim, what it means is that no, it doesn't matter if you're going through the hole or not through the hole. If there's a middle guy, if there's a guy in the middle, in the two shows, and you're going through his airspace, if you're not going through a hole, it's still usher. You're not allowed to go through his airspace. And according to what we're learning, it means no. Whether you're going over Shus Harabim or Shus Yachid, it doesn't matter. You're going over Shus Yachid, it's no good because your bucket might fall into the middle guy's balcony. And therefore, it might fall into his balcony then, and as you didn't do an Eruv with him. So therefore, you have a problem, and we don't let you use it because you didn't make an Eruv from the middle guy, even if you're not going through a hole. You're going just through his airspace because the bucket might go back and forth and go through his window or through into his balcony, and that is a problem. Okay, so next Gemara, we're going to go with the carbon 8 and change the girsa. So there's Reb Chaim. Masnisa pliga instead of Rabbi Zira, and so it's the article. Masnisa pliga Rabbi Shmuel bar Yitzchak. So Shmuel Yitzchak said that it's okay if you're going, if there's not going over a hole, so through the hole. So what do you mean? It says you can lower a pot of meat from a ziz, from a protrusion from a wall, which is 10 tefachim high and 4 tefachim wide, to a lower level, but as long as there's nobody in between. If there's a window in between, even just a window, which is 4 by 4 tefachim aser. So you see shus avi or rishus. You can't go from another guy's window or from another guy's balcony, right? Which is like Rabbi Zira, right? Who says that whether you're going through a hole or not going through a hole, it's also. So the answer is a little bit hard to understand what exact answers. Ma'aval of Shuvah Yitzchak, what does Shuvah Yitzchak say? Patala b'shaveh. He's saying that somehow they are all equal, and that you're going through. You're going through somehow through their equal in their control over the area. I guess perhaps they all have zizim, and he also has a ziz, which doesn't sound that way because there's a chalon. That it says here that the way Chaim explains it, that the ziz and the window are parallel to each other. So the ziz is the they have a reshus to it's equal. It says here, but Chaim says shaziz shavah chalon. Chashiv ziz reshus chalon. So ziz is talking about the reshus chalon, and Elyon wants to go through the ziz in front of the. There's a window in front. There's a ziz in front of the middle one, and he wants to go through that. So I guess that somehow. Again, I'm not sure the scenario is. So somehow the middle one has a ziz, which then makes them all equal in, and you're going through the middle one. Let's see if the article makes it any better. I have to tell you, the article doesn't make it any better, but there's a fasting girsa in the Leiden, which is in parentheses, and then it says b'shava afterwards, like it says in Argamar. But Rabbeinu Chananel also evidently has this girsa, b'shvuya, not b'shava, b'shvuya. In captivity. So evidently this middle window has something which snares things on the way down. That's why it's a problem. It doesn't necessarily have a ziz. It doesn't necessarily have a full protrusion or which is a problem. But somehow it's shvuya. It holds things captive on the way down. I don't know exactly how. Maybe it has a grappling hook or something. In any event, so somehow there is the middle one is the shvuya. It holds things captive. That could be one shot if you're over b'shvuya. The other shot could be that b'shvuya that this window is somehow encased. But in any event, there's some way in which this middle window is causing a problem. Either b'shaveh, the way the article learns it, is that it's on the same level as the ziz, not really below the ziz. And b'shava, I guess, could also mean that it's that it has its own protrusion, which protrudes from it, or b'shvuya, that somehow captures things. But in any event, there's some affinity, which in the middle window has, which makes it as if it's going through a hole in the middle, like the case in which we answered on top. Okay, that's it for today. Stop here.